Pressure from Individual Pensioners Bondholders Forum as he finally grants the retirees complete exemption from the domestic debt exchange program.
All pensioners who did not participate in the bond offering are exempted. Mr. Speaker, I pray that puts paid to the need for our senior citizens to picket at the ministry.
But the pensioners say they are yet to receive the finance minister's formal letter communicating the exemption.
Exemption has been given. This is in the records of Parliament. Even though I haven't received the letter, the records of Parliament is there, it's clear. It has ended. And Ghana, our beloved country, is free forever.
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
And Top Story is always brought to you by Vodafone. It was just 24 hours ago that Finance Minister Akufo-Addo questioned why pensioners were still picketing at his office.
All government bonds will be honored, and that therefore, whether you are voluntary or not, whether you have tendered or not, it will be respected. So I really want to understand why we are still here.
Well, the pensioners whose bonds have been exposed to the domestic debt exchange program insisted only an explicit exemption from the debt exchange program will stop them from continuing their protest at the finance ministry. They had been coming to the ministry every day for the last 8 days and were joined by heavyweights like former Chief Justice Sophia Akufo to protest. 24 hours on, their persistence has paid off and has forced the finance minister, who only yesterday questioned why they continue to protest, to cave in, admitting in the process that he had been left distressed by the action. He has today been addressing Parliament.
Government remains committed to the well-being and dignity of our senior citizens and pensioners. Indeed, it has personally, Mr. Speaker, caused me great distress as a number of our pensioners have picketed at the premises of the Ministry of Finance since Monday, February 6, 2023. I have already indicated in my press release, Mr. Speaker, dated 14th February 2023, the government will honor their coupons, payments, and maturing principles, like all government bonds, in line with government's fiscal commitments. Mr. Speaker, in seeking to understand the concerns of our senior citizens, I have met with them on 3 occasions. The most recent was yesterday, 15 February 2022, where I explained the terms of the new bonds. Mr. Speaker, I subsequently wrote to their convener, letting him know, Mr. Speaker, that all pensioners who did not participate in the bond offering are exempted. Mr. Speaker, I pray that puts paid to the need for our senior citizens to picket at the ministry.
Well, the Speaker of Parliament, Aban Babin, who has been in the corner of the pensioners, was happy the finance minister had granted their wish. He says Akufo-Addo must leave the pensioners alone.
The pensioners were with me yesterday and poured out their hearts, and I'm happy they met you too, and you were able to assure them that they will be exempted. And they are here today. They have even programmed to also picket not only at your ministry, but also in Parliament. I'm happy to hear that they are exempted. And what I can tell you is that leave our pensioners alone. We can solve that without touching the pensioners' small money that we've given to them.
Well, we're learning from the pensioners that as shortly after that particular briefing today, they still had not received that letter communicating the exemption, but convener of the Individual Pensioners Bondholders Forum, Dr. Edu Ananienchi, says they have nonetheless called off their protests, which of course they've been on since the early days of the announcement of the debt exchange program. And he himself has been speaking in Parliament to my colleagues there about the expectation. They were expecting that tomorrow they will not be heading to the Finance Ministry for another protest, because obviously they believe that the Finance Minister's word, having been recorded in Parliament, is enough.
I have no other thing to do than exemption has been given. This is in the records of Parliament. Even though having received the letter, the records of Parliament is there, it's clear.
It means the picketing has ended.
It has ended. And Ghana, our beloved country, is free forever.
So, what do you make of the debates on both sides?
Well, it's good they spoke about all this. You see, we shouldn't have taken our elderly through this process. But of course, it shows that this country, there will always be people who will stand up for some of these things. And the young ones, I'm encouraging you that when it gets your time, look at what is happening. Say, no, this one is not right. I will fight for it. And if we get many of you also doing that, the nation will be a successful nation.
Let's get an update from Dr. Edu Ananienchi, who leads that group, joins us on the line right now. Dr. Ananienchi, I guess congratulations are in order tonight.
Thank you.
Yes, and I can hear the Uh,
Yes.
let's single her out. Has she received the letter, and what did she tell you when she received it?
I'm not too sure, but I believe he will be happy because that's all that we are all looking for. But we haven't spoken. I'm still driving to get to the house and look at it. I haven't even read my emails, my WhatsApp messages.
I am grateful, Dr. Edwana Nienchi.
We are also grateful.
We will be talking to you again, I'm pretty sure. That's Dr. Edu Anani Enkri, the man who led gallantly from the front when it came to the Individual Pensioners Bondholders Forum, securing what they've been asking for all along, an exemption. I want to bring in right now the minority leader, Dr. Kaisel Atofosing, who was on the floor today and introduced another dimension to the exemption. He has been pushing today on the floor for a parliamentary resolution covering this exemption. And he joins us on the line right now with further clarity about that. Thank you very much, Dr. Forson.
Thank you, Evans.
Please explain. I heard you on the floor pushing for a parliamentary resolution. Explain to me what that is and what you want to achieve with that.
Okay, so Evans, to start with, our intention today was to serve a notice that tomorrow the NDC minority will be filing a motion to compel the government to exempt individual bondholders and pension funds and pensioners from the domestic debt exchange. There's another motion that we are contemplating to get the minister responsible for finance to bring the whole debt exchange to Parliament for approval. Because obviously the Constitution is clear on this matter, that before you go for a loan, the terms and Constitution must be approved by Parliament. The Public Financial Management Act also affirms this position. And so what the minister is doing is engaging in illegality, and we feel strongly about this. So expect a motion to be filed by the NDC minority tomorrow.
And explain to me, the finance minister told you today that he has now written, and that was just confirmed by Dr. Duana Nunchi, explicitly granting them the exemption. The parliamentary resolution, what will that do to this?
Okay, so that is one step. The other leg has to do with the individual bondholders who are also not pensioners. We're going to push so that they can also recognize them as such. We do not expect that individuals who have had faith in our government over the years, who have saved their money and have invested in risk-free, we believe that those people should not be made to suffer and to go through what the banks or any other person is going through. So we are going to ensure that the minister grants what we call issuer's exemption to those ones as well. Because obviously the right for an issuer exemption is different from the right from self-exemption. And we want to be sure that every Ghanaian that has had faith in successive government and has bought bonds should not be made to suffer. And in doing so, our motion will capture that clearly.
Let me ask you then, now the finance minister has briefed you on the domestic debt exchange. Satisfied with what you heard in general about what they've managed to achieve?
It doesn't. We are very unsatisfied. We believe that the IMF program was poorly negotiated. If I have my way, I will urge the minister to go back to the negotiation table. I will ask His Excellency the President to allow other well-meaning Ghanaians, particularly professionals, to join the minister responsible for finance to negotiate a better deal. Because the kind of negotiation that he did and the kind of deal that he has brought to Ghana is such a terrible one, and in the end is going to affect the country big time. So clearly, the contours of the IMF negotiation is not in the interest of the country. I mean, countries have gone through this, and countries that have gone through that restructuring, particular attention has been placed on domestic debt exchange, because it should be done in such a way that you don't hurt the domestic economy. But what the minister is doing now clearly is going to hurt the domestic economy, and that's a major worry.
I'm grateful, Dr. Forsing, for your time. That's the minority leader, Dr. Kaysalata Forsing, talking to us on the back of what has happened today in Parliament. We'll have more for you on Newsnight on this. We'll be exploring what the Finance Minister had detailed today is the next leg of this major battle and the race against time to get an IMF Executive Board approval in March, and what they are doing currently to get the bilateral and commercial creditors to agree to sit down, talk, and restructure our debt. But also today on the floor of Parliament, there was a very heated contribution from both sides on the back of the Finance Minister's address and the briefing.